So today's presentation is on stress, sleep, eating, and energy, and how all of these aspects really interrelate and affect one another. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss a cycle. We'll touch on each of the three, so stress, sleep, and eating, and talk about how we can disturb that cycle if you are stuck in that vicious cycle of high stress, poor sleep, and possibly impulsive eating. So let's begin with a little bit of a story. I'm going to give you a story from a client of mine, and let's name that client Maria. So Maria is a woman, she's 43 years old. She has a full-time job. She has 2 kids. She has a family, so she has a husband who also works. She has 2 kids who are 12 and let's say 17. They're at home right now because of the pandemic and the quarantine, so they're doing the virtual schooling. She's working from home. Her husband's working from home. So her job is moderately stressful. It's fairly challenging, not excessively stressful, but busy enough. Now that she's working from home, you know, she has the typical challenge that a lot of us face, where she's got work demands, and then she's checking in on her kids to make sure they're following through with their learning. Now making lunch at home, and you know, now that she's home right after work and there's no commute, it's right down to the kitchen for dinner prep and cleanup, and there's house chores, and there's all of the personal stuff, personal emails and finances and all of that, and then there's hobbies on the side. And the evening goes by really quickly. It's filled with, you know, family obligations and dinner and cleanup and all of that. And by the time she gets through that, she's feeling pretty tired and exhausted, kind of waiting for the kids to go to bed. The kids finally get to bed, and it's probably a good time now for her to go to bed, but she feels like this is her time to unwind and maybe watch TV or read or do something that she enjoys doing. So she'll often sit down, even though she should be going to bed at this time because she is pretty darn tired. She'll sit down in front of the TV, you know, watch Netflix. And what does TV lead to? Usually snacking. So out comes the potato chips, or if she's, you know, maybe she's a little bit more health conscious and she's going for nuts or something a little bit more healthy, but snacking, maybe a glass of wine. And then, you know, and getting to bed way too late. So she goes to bed at probably midnight or so. At that point, she's a little overstimulated from the TV and the activity, and or maybe, you know, there are nights where sometimes she does fall asleep really easily because of the wine and the food, but often finds herself waking up at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with that busy brain. So her brain's going, thinking about everything there is to do the next day. And the anxiety kicks in, and she's just thinking, having a hard time falling back asleep, lies in bed awake for a little while, eventually falls back asleep, and then wakes up to her alarm clock at 6:30 in the morning, feeling really tired because she had the disrupted sleep. So the day begins again, and it's a vicious cycle. So I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but this is a very, very common issue. She's certainly not alone. Many of us find ourselves in this situation, especially now with the pandemic. And, you know, a lot of her stressors are definitely legit stressors. You know, we have the stress in our life, and it is legit, it's real. Could she do things differently? Is she doing anything wrong? She's not necessarily doing anything wrong. She shouldn't feel badly about what she's doing. But what she is doing is impacting the quality of her life. It's impacting her energy. It's impacting her sleep. It's probably impacting her relationships. It's impacting her work performance. So as we go through this webinar, we'll discuss, you know, how it is that we get stuck in that cycle and how we can get ourselves out of the cycle. My slides are stuck in the cycle. Here we go. Oh, now they're jumping. Okay, let's go back. So sleep, stress, and eating are all really interrelated. they're all also really critical to our health. They really impact our health. And a lot of people are stuck in the cycle of high stress, poor sleep, and impulsive eating. So let's start with stress. Everybody, each individual might have a different underlying cause or foundational issue that gets them into this cycle initially. So for one person, it might be stress. It might be that they lost their job during the pandemic, and that's a really good reason to be stressed. So this high level of stress is what gets them into the cycle. Because they're under high levels of stress, it may result in impulsive, emotional eating, overeating, binging, grabbing things on the go, and that might also impact the quality of their sleep. Another individual might have poor sleep, and maybe again, it's for really legitimate reasons. Maybe this individual has just had a baby or has a new puppy that's waking them up throughout the night, and they're waking up several times throughout the night. So they're getting this disruption in the sleep cycle. If their sleep is disrupted, they're more likely to impulse eat and eat, junk food and stimulants to get their energy up throughout the day because they're waking up feeling tired, and their tolerance to stress will be lower. Any of us who are moms can certainly relate to that, right? And then another individual maybe they're having some issues with their eating. Maybe the pandemic has caused them to eat more carbs, more sugar. They're working from home now, quick and easy access to the pantry. And they find themselves eating a lot more junk food. And eating these unhealthy foods can also put us into this cycle because it makes us less adaptive to stress and may also disrupt our sleep. So we really have this epidemic in North America of people who are overstressed, they're exhausted, they're addicted to sugar and stimulants, unfit, sick, and feeling depressed. So the definition of stress, let's start with stress. We're going to talk about stress first. The definition of stress is a constraining force or influence. Another definition is a physical, mental, or emotional factor that causes bodily, sorry, I have to move you, bodily or mental reactions or tension. So is stress bad? Is stress evil? Stress tends to have a bit of a negative rap, right? Like we tend to think of stress as this evil force in our lives that causes a lot of destruction and harm, and it certainly can, but stress is also important. Stress helps us respond and move toward our goals. So if we think of that first definition, it's a constraining force or influence. It influences us to move forward. It influences us to move on and move toward our goals. It's good to have some stress if it's kept under appropriate levels. So it actually motivates us and drives us. But the problem is that too much stress is obviously not good. I'm sure we've all experienced too much stress. And stress becomes problematic if it's preventing us from living our lives fully. So if it's preventing you from doing things that you want to do, if it's impacting your energy, if it's impacting your sleep, if it's impacting your eating habits, that's when we know it's become problematic. And too little stress can actually be harmful as well. If you think of somebody who maybe smokes marijuana all day long and is sitting on their couch and doesn't have a job, there's very little stress in that individual's life and therefore little drive or motivation to move forward. So it's really a balancing act. And there's many different stressors in our life. Stress can come from the environment. We can be exposed to stress in our environment or from our lifestyle. So smoking, alcohol, toxins in the environment, if we're not exercising enough, if we're not sleeping, personal care products, exposing us to more toxins. air and water chemicals, EMFs, radiation. These are environmental stressors or lifestyle stressors that do put our body into a state of stress. There's physical stress like health issues, certain medications, nutrition, diet, digestive issues or underlying health issues, overexertion if we're working too hard physically. These can all put strain and stress on the body. Emotional and psychological stressors from relationships, loss, trauma, change, fear, addiction, grief, anger, negative attitudes. These are all emotional and psychological stressors. And then there's mental stressors like our work demands, deadlines, multitasking, worrying, anxiety, perfectionism, self-criticism, finances. So we can be under a lot of stress from different areas of our life. And if we're under too much stress, then that can create a stress overload on the system. So the stress response is really critical. It's important that our body has this natural ability to help us cope with stress. If we find ourselves in any one of these situations here on the slides, you definitely want your body to kick into stress response. We want the adrenaline and the cortisol and those hormones that we're going to talk about in a minute to kick in and to put us in that state of fight or flight, so we can get to safety and we can survive. These kinds of stressors are acute stressors, right? We're not going to be exposed to these things for a long period of time. They happen very quickly, and then our body comes back down to a balanced natural state very quickly. The problem is today, a lot of us are under, oh boy, there we go, no. The problem is today, a lot of the stressors that we're under are quite chronic. We're under these stressors all day long. So there's traffic before pandemic and we were driving to work, we were commuting. There's traffic, there's work stressors, there's the news that we're exposed to. If you're one to be on the phone or on your device all the time, tracking the updates on the pandemic and what's happening in society. These are important things to know, but if we're constantly exposed to these stressors, when does our body get to rebalance and come down? So when we're under stress, whether acute or chronic, our brain signals our pituitary gland to secrete a hormone that stimulates our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands sit on top of our kidneys, and they're really known as the stress glands. They secrete adrenaline and cortisol, or norepinephrine and epinephrine and cortisol. And these hormones really help to regulate our response to stress. So when these hormones are secreted, we have a lot of different physiological reactions. Our digestion, I talk about this often in my digestion seminar, it slows down. So our body really learns to prioritize. When we're under stress, digestion is not a priority. It's not a priority it takes a lot of energy to digest our food, and our body needs that energy to be directed to the muscles, to the heart, to the brain, so that we can think and move fast when we're in a state of stress. So all of our energy really goes to the lungs, it goes to the heart, it goes to the blood vessels, it goes to the brain, to our eyes, so we can focus and we can get out of there or fight and deal with the situation. Now imagine if we're under chronic stress, how this will impact our health, right? Chronic stress will lead to all kinds of health issues like high blood pressure and metabolic disorders and mental health issues and poor digestion, because we're never coming down from that state. So the stress overload occurs when we're chronically faced with excessive amounts of pressures and demands that require action. And chronic stress can lead to all kinds of issues, like lowered immunity, metabolic disorders, autoimmune conditions, inflammation, hormonal imbalances, decreased fertility, heart disease, impaired digestion, muscle tension, sweating and shaking, nervousness and irritability. So people who are under chronic stress will often startle very easily. Brain disorders, depression, anxiety, accelerated aging, increased appetite, eating disorders, addiction, sleep disturbances, and exhaustion. The list really goes on and on. So I'd invite you all just to take a moment right now. If you have a pen and pencil, you're welcome to grab that and think about what is your current stress level? On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate your stress, your overall stress? Is it fairly low? Is it moderate? Is it very high? And be honest with yourself. And then think about what are your main stressors. So we talked about physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, environmental stress. What are the main stressors that are causing stress for you? And then take a minute to think about how these stressors might be impacting your health. So what are you noticing? Are you noticing that you have a hard time sleeping, that you're waking up with a racing mind? Is your energy impacted? Are you dealing with a great deal of inflammation? What about your mental health? Anxiety, depression? Is that an issue at all? Digestive issues. How's your digestion? And then think about what your coping mechanisms are. So your coping mechanisms might be healthy ones or maybe not. But again, be honest with yourself. How do you cope with stress? Do you try to ignore it? Do you try to suppress it? Do you try to avoid it? Deny it? Or do you have a healthy stress management practice? And what do you do? And this is just information that you can keep to yourself. And again, what do you do to reduce your stress? What do you do to shift your perspective? Stress can sometimes be an issue of perspective. Or what do you do to build your tolerance to stress? So I know I'm not giving you a lot of time to work on that, but if you can just jot those down, you're welcome to come back to it after the webinar as well. And we'll move on to sleep. And again, I have some questions for you to reflect on. So think about, are you getting enough sleep? Do you feel like you're getting enough sleep? The average adult needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. So are you falling within that range? Is your sleep compromised at all? Are you sleeping through? Or is it disrupted? And then the most important questions, are you waking up feeling rested? When you wake up in the morning, is it easy for you to get out of bed? Are you happy to get out of bed? Or are you feeling exhausted and depressed when you wake up? And do you maintain healthy energy, focus, and concentration throughout the day? Or do you find that there's periods of highs and low? It's normal to experience that to a certain degree. But is it extreme? Are you finding that by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you absolutely need a nap or some sugar or some caffeine to keep you going? And then maybe at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, you're starting to feel kind of sluggish and tired. But after dinner, you get this second wind and you feel energized and ready to take on the world. And then at 11 o'clock, you're tired, but you can't fall asleep. Where are you in that spectrum? So, oh boy, sorry about this. My mouse is jumping around. Okay, so our body and sleep. Sleep, we all know that sleep is really critical. It's the time in our lives when our body focuses on repairing, replenishing, regenerating, recharging, resetting. Sleep is really important in the healing process. So if we're dealing with any kind of illness, injury, our body heals and repairs tissues while we're sleeping. Our immune system really kicks in while we're sleeping. Detoxification occurs when we're sleeping at night. It's occurring all the time, but it's definitely a heightened process when we're sleeping. Our muscles relax, so we experience relaxation. Our heart rate slows down. We process and consolidate thoughts and memories from the day. So people who think that it's, you know, when we were back in college and university and we crammed all night and stayed up all night on coffee to study, it's actually not that effective to do that. We need sleep in order to consolidate and process information. And digestion will occur when we're sleeping, especially if we've eaten before we go to sleep. So ideally, I talk about this in my digestion seminar, we don't want to go to bed with a full digestive system, because then a lot of our energy will be directed to digestion as opposed to resetting, recharging, healing, repairing, regenerating. Possible results of sleep deprivation. So if we're not sleeping well, we experience exhaustion, poor focus, concentration, memory recall, slow reactivity, confusion and disorientation. So I know a lot of people think they worry that they have dementia when it's just insomnia. Mood shifts, short temper, accidents. Nearly 100,000 crashes in the US are due to falling asleep at the wheel. Increased risk of disease, accelerated aging, lowered tolerance to stress for sure, increased or decreased appetite, and craving for stimulants. And common causes of sleep disturbances can be caused by medical conditions and medications, obesity, apnea, sleep apnea. A lot of people struggle with sleep apnea. Pain is definitely one of the leading causes of sleep disturbances. Imbalanced circadian rhythms. So I won't get into that right now, but we have a circadian rhythm. I'm sure many of you have heard of it, and it involves our melatonin, our serotonin, these hormones that help to regulate sleep and fatigue and our awake energy cycles. And often people experience an imbalance within that system if they're not sleeping during regular hours. So people who work shift work, for instance, if they're not getting enough sunshine, there's lots of things that can disrupt the cycle. Inactivity or increased activity before bed can influence our sleep. Blue light from electronics and EMF exposure as well, these things can influence our ability to sleep, especially if we're on devices just before bed and if we're really sensitive to them. Disruptive environment, so if there's a lot of noise, if there's a lot of light, diet, stress, anxiety, and busy brain, and that's the #1 leading cause of sleep issues. So stress, anxiety, thinking about life and that to-do list that seems to never end. And third, let's talk about eating and how that comes into the cycle. So a few questions for reflection here as well. If you can take a minute and think, do you usually feel energized and good after a meal? Do you feel light, energized? Do you feel like you're digesting well, or do you feel kind of sluggish after eating? Do you feel like your food is sitting and sitting and sitting and not digesting? Do you frequently desire sugar, caffeine, or other stimulants? Are the majority of your food choices made mindfully or impulsively? So do you stop and think about what you're going to eat, or do you find yourself just reaching and grabbing? Oh, come on, stay. Okay, so how nourishment plays a role in the stress, sleep, and eating cycle, energy cycle. Food is meant to nourish us and provide us with fuel. When we're really well rested, when we're recharged, when we're managing our stress levels well, we usually desire nourishing, healthy, wholesome foods. And we have enough time and energy to prepare them. Whole natural foods provide us with all of those nutrients that are required for energy production, to balance our hormones, and to support our neuroendocrine health. So our body requires 72 vitamins and minerals to function properly. And if we become deficient in one single nutrient, imbalances occur in the body. So in order to get those 72 vitamins and minerals, we really need to eat a diet that contains a lot of whole natural foods that provide us with those sustaining nutrients that our body requires. When we're under stress, when we're sleep deprived, we tend to reach for more processed foods that lack those important nutrients and don't provide us with the sustainable energy that we need to get us through the day. So when our stress levels are high and our sleep quality is poor, we crave stimulants, right? We crave sugar, we crave caffeine, we crave greasy foods, salty foods, comfort foods to give us the quick boost. And then we lose our ability to make mindful choices when we're exhausted. So we eat mindlessly and impulsively. And that leads us to consuming more stimulants, lowers our tolerance to stress, makes us grumpy and reactive and tired, and then disrupts our sleep cycle. So you can see how it really is a vicious cycle. Foods that might contribute to stress and insomnia, I'm sure you can guess a lot of these. Sugar and refined products. So refined products are all of our white products: white bread, white rice, white pasta, white sugar. They cause a quick rise in our blood sugar levels, followed by a crash and a craving for more. So we get stuck in this blood sugar cycle of high and low, and we really become dependent on those foods. Food chemicals, so additives that are added to a lot of the processed foods. Processed foods are basically anything that's in a package, a can, a box, anything that's been factory produced. If it grows on a tree, if it comes from the ground, then it's a whole natural food. Anything else has been processed. Doesn't mean that everything processed is bad. There are a lot of processed foods that are minimally processed and are made from whole natural food ingredients. So it's important to pay attention to the ingredients on a food package, to read labels, and to stop and think about when you are eating processed food or buying processed food, what is this food made of? Is it minimally processed? Is it processed using all natural ingredients? Or are there a lot of chemicals added to it for flavoring and to sustain shelf life and, you know, all of that? There's all kinds of food chemicals that are toxic and irritating to our nervous system. Alcohol and caffeine, they're both very stimulating. Well, alcohol relaxes us initially, but often people who drink alcohol in the evening will fall asleep very quickly, but find themselves waking up a couple hours later. And caffeine is naturally a stimulant. So for anybody who's struggling with sleep issues, consuming caffeine in the evenings or even late afternoon can really impact sleep. Highly acidic foods or spicy foods can impact sleep for some individuals, especially if you're somebody who's prone to a bit of heartburn or indigestion or GERD, acid reflux. Then you want to watch your consumption of spicy foods, especially in the evening hours. Food allergens or intolerances. So for people who have an intolerance to, say, dairy or gluten or corn or soy, these foods can cause a lot of irritation and inflammation in the gut. And that causes systemic irritation. We now know that there's a huge connection between the gut and the nervous system, the immune system as well. So when we're eating things that are causing irritation in our gut, it's causing an irritation in our brain and our body as well. Heavy meals and fast foods, so eating heavy, greasy foods, highly salted foods, can certainly disrupt sleep and lower our tolerance to stress. Might make us feel really tired after we eat it, and you might experience a crash, find yourself on the couch, you know, with your feet up and maybe falling asleep, but definitely will cause individuals to wake up throughout the night. So our lives are already fast, frantic, and highly commercial. Nutritious food should help us balance our unhealthy lifestyle, yet the fast food and the convenience food industry only add harm to the madness. Approximately 90% of the money that Americans spend on food is used on processed food, and this comes from Fast Food Nation. So this is an American statistic, but we're not that far behind. So the solution is really to disrupt the cycle someplace. People tend to feel really overwhelmed when they get stuck in a cycle because they're struggling with low energy, they're struggling with sleep issues, they're feeling really stressed out and finding themselves impulsively eating and in this vicious cycle. They may have gained some weight, they might have accumulated some health issues along the way as well from being in this cycle. So it can feel really overwhelming, especially the thought of having to tackle all of those aspects of our lives: stress, sleep, and eating. And you may have found, there's a lot of us tend to become really highly motivated to change everything, only to find ourselves back in that vicious cycle a month later, a few weeks later, half a year later. So one way to break this cycle is to start by focusing on one area within the cycle, because it is a positive feedback cycle, because all aspects will be influenced by change within one of those areas. We can simply focus on one area at a time. So I suggest that you focus on the area that is either the most damaging, or the most not challenging necessarily, but the area that's causing the most distress in your life, or the area that you feel is the most realistic for you to get control over. So think about where you are stuck in that cycle. Where do you want to focus on improving? And what pattern changes will have the greatest positive impact on your life? And so we'll get into some suggestions on how you can break the cycle in the various areas. There we go. Stress management. So we all know that there's a million different ways that we can help to manage our stress for some individuals, and it really is personal. You have to find what works for you. For some people, meditation, journaling, yoga, all of those sort of spiritual mindfulness practices are extremely beneficial. For others, it might be exercise. It might be a good workout, or maybe it's a bit of both. For others, it might be art or dance or music, getting out in nature. Some people need to talk it out, so counseling or chatting with a friend. Other people need time alone, so getting out in nature by themselves, or a little mini vacation, not as realistic right now, but just getting out for a walk even by yourself. Playing with kids, sleep, nourishment, supplements. There's supplements that we'll talk about as well. So there's lots of different things we can do to help manage our stress. It's about finding what works for you, what uplifts you, what fills your bucket, what makes you feel more balanced and grounded. I've never had issues with my slides like this, so this is a bit puzzling. Okay, and for those who would like to focus on sleep, there's something called sleep hygiene, and you can Google it for more information. There's loads of videos and loads of information on sleep hygiene online. But if you're somebody who really struggles with sleep, if sleep is an issue, whether it's you have a hard time falling asleep at the beginning of the night, or you have no problem falling asleep, but you find your sleep disrupted, you're waking up frequently throughout the night, or you're waking up in the morning feeling exhausted because you feel like you didn't get quality sleep, even though you did sleep, you feel like you didn't get yourself into a deep sleep, then sleep hygiene practices are really helpful. So it does require definitely a bit of structure, and some people don't like structure, but this is really important to break out of that cycle. So practices like not hitting the snooze button when you wake up, just getting up, not jumping out of bed, but taking a few seconds to wake up and getting yourself out of bed. If you find yourself stuck in that pattern of snooze, 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 that's a really bad habit for people who are struggling with sleep. Creating a morning routine is really helpful as well. So you get up, what can you do in the morning in the first, say, 15 minutes that you can do consistently every morning that will help your body wake up? Maybe it's a bit of a stretching routine. Maybe it's that you like to go take a shower, have a glass of water. And then during the day, it's important to get exposure to natural light. So if you don't have a space to work from that exposes you to natural light, like a nice window, then maybe purchasing a full spectrum light. They're sold everywhere online. They're fairly affordable. That will help your brain regulate that circadian rhythm. No napping. So if you find that you're really, you're in the habit of napping and you're having an issue sleeping through the night, if you take a nap in the afternoon and you have no issues with sleep and your energy is good the rest of the day, then great. If that's what works for you, then keep doing it. But if you find that your sleep is disrupted throughout the night and you are napping once or a couple times throughout the day, try to remove those naps for a little while, or at least keep it down to about a 10-minute cat nap if you really need it, if you're really feeling dysfunctional at 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then set your alarm for a quick 10-minute power nap or even a guided meditation. You might drift off while you're doing that, but meditation is also really effective for energy production and for fatigue. Avoid caffeine, alcohol, and sugar past 3 o'clock in the afternoon. People who have disrupted sleep are often very sensitive to those foods, so you definitely want to watch that. Within 1 to 2 hours of going to bed, no electronics, or at least use a filter. So if you are using electronic, the further away you are from it, the better. So if it's right in front of you, then that's going to be really stimulating before you go to bed. If you can try to stay off, avoid all technology, all electronics for the hour before bed, that would be really helpful in your sleep routine. A relaxing bedtime routine. So again, just like when you wake up in the morning, consider creating a bit of a routine for yourself, and it can be the hour before you go to bed, it can be 15 minutes before you go to bed. Again, it can involve deep breathing, some relaxation, it can involve a bath, whatever makes you feel more relaxed. Little to no snacking or eating in the evening. Now, most people benefit from going to bed on an empty stomach. So most people do really well on eating a dinner at about 6 o'clock or so and then not eating anything before bed. Some people with really high metabolisms have a hard time falling asleep if they're really hungry. So it really comes down to listening to your body. And if you need something before you go to bed because your stomach is rumbling and growling and feels empty and feels uncomfortable, then I would suggest one of the foods from the list that we'll go through in a minute. Supplement with natural relaxants. We'll talk about those. And then through the night, sleep in a dark, cool room. Make your bed comfortable and welcoming. So a lot of people who have insomnia or sleep challenges feel anxious when they go to bed. They start to associate their bed with anxiety. So it's really important to make the environment really welcoming, comfortable, warm, but not too warm. Sleep and wake at a consistent time every day, especially when you're trying to retrain your brain and retrain your cycle, your system. You want to set a wake time and a bedtime that's very consistent. Keep electronics out of your room. Keep a notebook beside the bed and jot down your to-do list, your concerns, any preoccupations before you go to bed. So kind of do a brain dump and just write down everything that you're thinking so that your body doesn't have to wake up and think about those things in the middle of the night. And if you do wake up and think about those things in the middle of the night, maybe for the first little while, keep that notebook handy and just turn on a very dim light and wake up and jot those things down if you need to get them out of your head. Engage in a relaxed meditation, a yoga nidra, or reading, and I'll give you some suggested apps at the end of the presentation. Practice deep breathing. Eating practices that will help to support your adaptability to stress and your sleep quality. So eating more whole, natural, nourishing foods. Eating an abundance of deeply colored fruits and vegetables. We talk about that at every one of my webinars. So eating from the rainbow, different colored fruits and vegetables contain different nutrients, and you really need that full spectrum of minerals and vitamins and phytonutrients to function optimally. Incorporate good fats at every meal. So good fats would come from things like cold water fish, like salmon and mackerel, halibut, sardines, from nuts and seeds, particularly walnuts, Brazil nuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, dark leafy green vegetables, avocados, olive oil, cold pressed olive oil or avocado oil, coconut. These are all good quality fats. And by incorporating a little bit of fat with each meal, that helps to nourish our nervous system and our brain. The omega-3s from good fats really help to support brain and nervous system health. Include protein at every meal. That helps to regulate our blood sugar levels. So eating either animal protein if you're not vegetarian, so something like chicken or fish or beef, pork, eggs. If you do eat dairy, then dairy is considered a protein as well, or there's vegetarian sources of protein, the plant-based protein foods like fermented soy products and quinoa and nuts and seeds and beans and pulses. This will help to regulate our blood sugar levels so we don't have those highs and lows throughout the day. Include foods that contain tryptophan, melatonin, serotonin, vitamins B, C, D, and minerals. So I won't go through each of those, but a lot of the whole natural plant-based foods that I'm going to go through in a minute contain a lot of these nutrients that our body needs to help with sleep and to help cope with stress. So again, focusing on eating more plant-based natural foods will naturally bring in these nutrients. Regulate daytime and nocturnal blood sugar levels. So that would involve, again, the protein and the fat at each meal, eating consistently, but not overeating, exercising. Avoid bedtime eating or snack lightly if needed. We just talked about that. And here are some particular foods that are really nourishing for the nervous system, very calming. They help to reduce agitation in the body. So ginger and turmeric are two spices that are known to help reduce inflammation, improve digestion, improve brain health. They can easily be incorporated into our cooking if you're making like a curry, or they can be taken in tea form. And even now in supplements, there's a lot of supplements that contain these herbs. Those are great herbs to help support the digestive system, to help support the nervous system and calm the body. Oats are very calming. A lot of people give them to animals to help calm animals down. So they're known to really settle the nervous system. So having like a overnight oats or an oatmeal granola type breakfast, or even a small dish as a bedtime snack if you are somebody that needs something before you go to bed, that might be a good option. Just be careful of the sugar. So all of the packaged oatmeal products and like granolas are very high in sugar. So it'd be best to just make your own. There's lots of recipes online. We have recipes at the Natural Food Pantry website as well. Fatty fish. So I mentioned salmon, mackerel, halibut, sardines. They're the fattier, the cold water fish that contain the omega-3, really important for our brain. Eggs are very high in tryptophan, serotonin, melatonin. These are all hormones that, well, melatonin and serotonin are hormones that help us with sleep and our energy cycle. Tryptophan helps us produce more of those hormones. Walnuts and almonds, they contain the good fats, they have protein, they contain some of these nutrients that are important for the brain and to regulate the cycles as well. avocados, kiwis, and cherries, especially tart cherries, very high in melatonin, blueberries, turkey. We all know turkey as the tryptophan food. It helps to put us into that coma sort of state. You probably find yourself on the couch often after a Thanksgiving dinner. So turkey contains tryptophan that helps to relax us and helps with the production of melatonin. Leafy green veggies, nuts and seeds. I often share at my seminars that I keep a jar with mixed nuts. So I just buy from the bulk section at the Natural Food Pantry all of the different seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, and pumpkin seeds, and I mix them up in a mason jar, keep it on my pantry. I do keep another jar in the fridge of ground nuts, or seeds, sorry, and I sprinkle that on my food at least once or twice a day. It gives you really great fiber, also the good fats. It's a really good way to incorporate them. So you can sprinkle them on your salads, you can put them in smoothies, you can add it to oatmeal or yogurt. And then sweet potato and squash, but also all of the other deeply colored vegetables like beets and carrots and peppers and all your green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. All of these are really good for supporting your overall health. 3 foundational supplements that I recommend for everybody, regardless of what your health issues are, regardless of whether you're trying to, conquer stress or sleep. A multivitamin for sure. So a good quality multivitamin that will give you, it's kind of like your insurance policy. It ensures that you get a little bit of all of the nutrients that your body needs. Definitely doesn't replace good food. So this is in addition to good, healthy, whole foods. An omega-3 supplement with vitamin D, so that would be a fish oil supplement. We're all deficient in omega-3. It's nearly impossible to get enough omega-3 through diet. Our body doesn't produce omega-3. We need to get it through food sources. And because we're all deficient, it's really important to supplement because it really is a critical nutrient. Omega-3 is a critical nutrient for brain health, for hormonal balance, for heart health, for the digestive system, for lubricating the joints, for skin. There's so many benefits to taking it. And we can develop so many imbalances if we don't take that supplement. And you can get it with added vitamin D so that you don't need to take an additional vitamin D supplement. And then a green drink, that's my #1 favorite. Not a lot of people are willing to take a green drink, but if you are willing to give it a try, it makes such a profound difference in your health. Green drinks are made, they're basically powders that you add to water or to a smoothie. They contain things like barley grass and wheatgrass, spirulina that comes from the sea, kelp from the sea, concentrated dehydrated vegetables, especially the green vegetables, and some of them contain herbs as well. And it's a really fantastic product for alkalizing the body. Most of us are too acidic, and when we're too acidic, it creates definitely like an aggravation and irritation in the body. Acidity is very corrosive, so it breaks down tissue and bone in the body. Acidity will impact digestion. It'll impact everything. So these foods, these powders are extremely alkalizing. They're really cleansing. They help to cleanse the liver and the blood, the digestive system. They're very nourishing. So they contain all of the vitamins and minerals that our body needs in a food form, which I really like. And it's considered a superfood. So they're very high in antioxidants and phytonutrients, which help to protect our cells and our tissues against damage. There's so many reasons, so many benefits from taking greens. A lot of people who struggle with inflammation, I know this is a little bit an aside, but a lot of people who struggle with inflammation, joint pain, really notice a difference if they start taking a green supplement like this every day. So great time to take it first thing in the morning when you get up, or mid-afternoon at 1 or 2 o'clock when you feel you experience that crash in energy and you're looking for something more stimulating. This would be a great healthy option to get your afternoon energy levels up. Teas. Teas are quite lovely and really effective for some people. when it comes to sleep and energy. So some calming teas that you can try in the evening or anytime during the day if you're feeling really stressed and agitated are chamomile, lavender, lemon balm, passion flower, skullcap, valerian. You can get those in tea bag format. You can get them in loose teas and make your own combinations. You can also buy these herbs in tinctures or in capsule form and take them in a more concentrated way, and that will help with calming as well. So with herbs, it's really pretty, you know, it's very individual. You need to find what works for you. So experiment a little bit. If you are taking tea in the evening to help you sleep, I don't suggest taking it right before bed, because then you might find that you wake up a few hours later needing to go to the washroom, and that might wake you up and keep you up for a while. So maybe have it, you know, a few hours before bedtime. Energizing teas and herbs are things like green tea, peppermint, ginseng, holy basil, or tulsi. These are really great for increasing your energy throughout the day. So obviously you wouldn't want to have these past 3 or 4 o'clock in the evening, but great during the day if you need a little bit of a boost. And then other supplements that are specific for stress and sleep. I really like these 2 products by Botanica. One is called Daily Adrenal Support and one is called Sleep Through. And you can take both or one or the other. Now you want to be careful if you're taking certain medications. So if you are taking prescription medications, check with a pharmacist. Just go online onto Botanica's website and write down the ingredients that are in the products. But these are 2 products that are really lovely for the daily adrenal support. Really helps to nurture your adrenal glands. So it just helps to bring your body back into more of a balanced, harmonious state. If you find yourself really stressed out, irritated, anxious all the time, it's a great supplement that you would take for a good period of time. You would need to take it for, you know, 4 to 6 weeks before you probably notice any difference, but it really helps to nurture and bring the body back into balance. And then Sleep Through is a supplement that you would take right before bed. It contains a lot of the herbs we talked about that you can take as teas, and that just helps to calm down the nervous system and helps promote sleep without, it doesn't have a tranquilizing effect. So it's not going to make you feel like a zombie the next day. For those who struggle with anxiety or busy brains specifically, so if you find you go to bed and your mind is racing, or even during the day if you experience anxiety, L-theanine is phenomenal. L-theanine is an amino acid from green tea that really helps to reduce anxiety. And GABA is another one, especially if you're a thinker at night, if your mind is racing. So the combination of those 2 is particularly helpful for people who wake up with anxiety or stress or that busy brain. There is a new formula that I'm really excited about. I have it behind me here. I'll show you. It's by Sisu, and it's called Magnesium Relaxation Blend. Now this has magnesium in it. It also has the GABA and theanine. So it's a beautiful combination. Magnesium is it's a mineral that helps us relax. It promotes muscle relaxation. And then the GABA and theanine, like I said, help with anxiety. So that's a really great formula that you can take before bed. You can also use it throughout the day. You can use this consistently, or you can use it occasionally as well. So I'll sometimes take a formula like this, or the theanine and the GABA, if I'm experiencing a more stressful, anxious sort of day, or if I have an event that I'm feeling stressed about, and it just helps to take the edge off. There's lots of different meditation apps that you can get on, you can download meditations from. You can download meditations from YouTube as well. There's lots of guided meditations and reflections and relaxations. You can apps, Insight Timer, Headspace, 10% Happier, Stop, Breathe, and Think. Those are some of my favorites. A lot of them are free too. You don't have to pay. So there's lots of resources out there. Just start poking around and try to find what works best for you. Yoga Nidra is a specific practice. It's a guided relaxation practice that, again, you can find on YouTube. You can find guided yoga nidra exercises. I know a lot of people, when they hear the word yoga, they imagine that they're going to be up, doing stretches, but it's not. It's a guided relaxation technique that's used to help promote sleep. So some people find that doing a yoga nidra before bed will help get them to sleep if they have a hard time sleeping. So look for that if you're struggling to fall asleep. And that wraps it up. Yeah, I apologize for my weird slides. They're jumping around on me a lot. And thank you for attending. As always with the seminars, we're offering 15% off if you're online shopping. So if you want to pick up any of those supplements, the new relaxation magnesium supplement by Sisu, or any of the supplements we talked about, the greens, you have until Thursday midnight to get 15% off through the online store. So just use the promo code here, webinar15, and you'll get 15% off of all your shopping online. So whether you're looking for supplements, or you need some groceries, or beauty products, health and skincare products, home cleaning, it's 15% off of your entire purchase. And I'll just go over to chat to check if anybody has any questions. If you have any specific questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself or type in the chat box, and I'm happy to address those. I see a few comments there. Should seeds be purchased whole and then ground at home when you're going to use them? Which seeds should be consumed whole and which should be ground? You can definitely grind all of them. You don't have to. The flax seeds are the ones that should definitely be ground. If you eat flax seeds whole, they just travel right through you. So it acts as a great fiber. There's no harm in that, but you won't get the benefits of the omega-3. So you definitely want to grind the flax seeds. You can purchase them ground in like a vacuum sealed container. Make sure that you don't buy them in bulk ground. So I know the bulk barn does have them ground in bulk, and they go rancid very quickly and easily. So you want to buy them whole or ground in a really well sealed package, preferably whole, and then just put them through a food processor or even a coffee grinder. Like you can get a coffee grinder for about $20 and just put them through the coffee grinder and keep them in the fridge once they're ground. So I grind them all. There's no harm in grinding all of them, and it just makes the nutrients more accessible and easier to assimilate. And then keep them in the fridge or the freezer, but only about a week's worth or so, because it does go rancid quickly. So you want to keep them fresh. For the green drink, if some are on medication, should they check with a doctor first? It wouldn't hurt. You could definitely purchase just a barley grass juice or wheatgrass juice, which is just a single ingredient, and it wouldn't contain any of the herbs. My only concern would be some of the herbs, So you want to check with a doctor or a pharmacist about the herbs that are in those formulas. But they are in there in such minute quantities. So for most people, it's a non-issue. Definitely want to watch the C vegetables if you have thyroid issues or on thyroid medication. So some of them have very high levels of spirulina or kelp in them, which contains a lot of iodine and can create a thyroid imbalance if somebody is already struggling with thyroid issues and is on medication. And back to the green drink, I know I mentioned the barley grass and the wheatgrass, and some people are concerned about gluten because a lot of people have a gluten intolerance. When these grains, I should say, when barley and wheat are sprouted, it's just the grass that they're using. They're not using the grain. So there's no gluten in the grasses. There might be some cross-contamination if it's not processed properly, but a lot of the products, the barley grass and the wheatgrass products that are processed carefully, have a claim on them that say that they're gluten-free. So I've never heard, actually I've only heard of one person ever having a reaction to barley grass who has celiac disease, but most people are fine with it. Thanks, Michelle. Does the online store or physical store carry the Botanica products too? Yes. Yeah, we have it both in store and online. And in store, we always have a nutritionist in the supplement section. So we have 5 locations throughout the city. There's one in Barhaven, one in Canada, Britannia, which was the Rainbow Foods, and Billingsbridge and Westboro. And there's always a nutritionist in the supplement section. So if you have any other questions, you can certainly visit the store or call and speak to a nutritionist, and they can help direct you as well. You're welcome, Lori. I took fish oil once and became very sick. Is it possible that it had gone bad? Should I try again? It's hard to say why you got sick. Definitely could have gone bad if you had it open for a while, or if it wasn't refrigerated, if it was a poor quality product. With fish oil, I would definitely recommend that you purchase it from the health food store. There are some supplements that are more critical to buy from a health food store than others, and fish oil would definitely be one. You want to make sure it's pharmaceutical grade, it's been filtered for, and any heavy metals or chemicals have been filtered out from the product. So you want to get a clean product made from the smallest fish. You may have an allergy or something, so be careful. But if you want to try it again, I would definitely recommend trying either Sealicious, Nutricy, or Nordic Naturals. Those are my top 3 favorite brands. They're very clean, very high quality. I also had issues with fish oil. Is there a good option that does not give you the fishy burps? Okay, so if you're experiencing, if it's repeating on you and you're getting that fishy taste afterward, or you're getting those fish burps, then there are a couple brands that make their fish oil with an enzyme called lipase. Lipase is an enzyme that helps you break down fat. So look for a brand that has lipase in it, and that will help with the digestion. Also take it with food. Take it maybe mid-meal, so you're kind of burying it into the food. Don't take it before your meal or after your meal, but take it midway through, just 1 teaspoon, or take half a teaspoon twice a day. Try to break it up, and it shouldn't cause an issue if you get a good quality fish oil and you do that. You take it with your food. You could take an additional digestive enzyme supplement with it as well. Digestive enzymes help you break down your food more efficiently. So you can buy like a full spectrum digestive enzyme containing lipase, and that will help you break it down. Fish oil was from Costco. Yeah, I would definitely suggest you get your fish oil from the health food store. One of the brands I mentioned, so Sealicious, Nordic Naturals, or Nutricy are really good brands. I really love the Sealicious flavors. They're so tasty. Like, you wouldn't taste the fish at all. My 7-year-old asks for it every day because he thinks it's a treat. And that leads me to share that everybody can take fish oil. So you can give fish oil to children 1 year of age up until, you know, seniors. Everybody would benefit from taking a fish oil supplement. So that's all the questions I see in the chat. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Thank you so much for being patient and listening through. We did well timing wise. And if you have any questions, you're certainly feel free to send me an email. It's natasha@naturalfoodpantry.ca. Happy to help you. I also offer nutritional consultations one-on-one. So for somebody who needs something a little bit more personalized, if you're struggling to figure things out yourself, then I can definitely help in that way as well. I see a lot of thank yous in the chat. You're very welcome. I hope everybody stays warm and healthy, and I hope to see you at the next event. If you're not a subscriber to the Natural Food Pantry newsletter, you can go on to our naturalfoodpantry.ca website and subscribe, so you'll get updates on upcoming events, on specials. You'll get the healthy news every month with videos and recipes and all that kind of good stuff. Or you can just pop onto our website and check out what's coming up in the education tab. I'll be posting events for February, likely today actually. So there'll be some new events coming up for February. We have a doctor speaking in February on heart health, and Cyrus from Pure Lab Vitamins is also doing another presentation on heart health, and we have some other good ones lined up for you as well. So lots of good events coming up. Promo code is webinar15. Yes, thank you. Can I take GABA, stress relax, if I'm taking depression medication? Check with your pharmacist. I'd be careful in that case. Maybe magnesium might be a better bet for a safer bet for you. Yes, I can send a copy of my slides to you. I didn't forget to hit record. I did hit record. I thought I forgot to hit record. So I will post the recording and share the link with you, so you can review the recording or share it, or if you missed part of it, you can catch that, and I will send the slides as well. Actually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. If you need the slides, send me an email. I'll send you an email with the link to the recording, and if you'd like the slides, then send me a personal email and I'll email them to you. I can't email it out through Zoom. Because the file's too large, or through email to all of you, but I can send it out individually if somebody really wants it. My email address is natasha@naturalfoodpantry.ca. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful week, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.